Ladies and gentlemen, come gather round, come gather round, come gather around. Today, I just picked up this lathe for scrap metal prices. Can we fix it? I hope so. I mean, yes, we can. Woo, let's go. I mean, I haven't even unloaded it yet.
Turns out this lathe is about the limits that my truck can carry, so and apparently part of the floor of my truck will never be the same again. And also the cherry picker does not fit under the truck when the lathe is in the truck. And my smaller ratchet straps broke while I was trying to load it up and had to buy bigger ratchet straps just to unload this thing once I got home. Good thing Princess Auto was on the way home from picking up the lathe.
One of the faults with this is the carriage feed does nothing. So I want to take a look at this.
One of the gambles of buying machinery for scrap is you might not be able to fix it. And if it's cheap, that's fine, but this was a little pricier than I wanted to gamble on.
Oh, that looks okay.
But I figure, how hard can it be? If it's put together with fasteners, there should be a way to unfasten it and figure out what went wrong. So, and this is a pretty common lathe. It's a sticker game from a bunch of companies, so hopefully I can get parts for this. And if I can make it work, it's a better lathe than what I already had. Yay!
Found it. Roll pin's missing. Kind of important. Found it. That's a problem. Yeah, that's a problem. That's what it is. Okay.
So while I'm waiting for a metric roll pin that I can't find locally to come from Grizzly Tools, I'm wiring up a double pole, double throw switch so that I can turn off both hots that feed the lathe. Just because it's always nice to be able to shut her off.
I really don't understand how these stay. They got scavenged from somebody, and the machine's basically sold by a lot of different companies. Grizzly has a drawing that shows all the different pieces, and so I ordered up these guys for the chuck. They arrived. A couple screws, springs, and these guys. And I also ordered the roll pin for the carriage. I bought two because why not? And in one of the online sites there was like three nuts in here that went in, and I don't know what they're for, but I have them and I don't think they fit this. So let's see if we can make this work. Well, it looks reasonably convincing, but what holds them in? Probably the wrong screws. That thread's in, but I don't see what it holds on to. I could see if it's a ball, but that would pop out.
This is what you need. It's round, it's got a hole in the back, counter bore I guess, to hold a spring. The end is squared so it fits into the little groove on those eccentric keys. I happen to have some drill rod from making a valve guide shortening tool for a set of small block Chevy heads. So I got the stuff kicking around, I might as well do something with it. I found the drawing online somewhere and then just wrote it up a little bit bigger and easier to read because it was a photocopy of a scan of a Gestetner, who knows. But these actually worked slick, so you can always go back, pause that screenshot, print it out. Here's one of the junk 3-jaw chucks that I have. I don't have a rotary table. It's always sketchy trying to clamp something round in a regular vise, but I've got this chuck that doesn't really work really well for the lathe, so clamp her down. That holds things down pretty good. This is the finished machine part. The little pointy divot fits into a lock part, an eccentric. It kind of has a detent. That's what it is. It's a detent in the middle of the groove to help you find center. And then heat treated. Yeah, well, I just got it up till it changed color with a propane torch, dunked it in a bucket of oil. It's probably good enough. It's not like you're going to be spinning these forever. They just need to hopefully last, and hopefully they'll last. So I guess they're doing their job. Putting it together worked pretty good. Fall into place. Those little springs worked nice. The Allen head cap screws worked nice. Still no idea why I ordered those big 3 nuts, but you know, it's always good to be prepared. And these just get snugged right up. I used to have, the lathes at work have the same apparatus. I think it's a D14 cam lock thing. And I used to have the key for the chuck kicking around and the key to unlock the chuck. And kids would unlock the chuck trying to remove their project, not realize they turned the wrong key, and then didn't bother to relock it and then remove their project. And after having the chuck fly off of a lathe at a kid, and they're like 35 pounds, have that happen twice, and I was done with that. So I keep the cam lock key in my office at work, and I'll change the chuck for the kids because I don't want to see anybody get hurt. Ain't nothing in high school worth getting hurt over. Now, I'm not a millwright. I've never taken a lathe apart before, so I'm figuring this out on screen. Some of these you're hearing me chat out myself, trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing. I did Google and found a video of a guy who took the end off of a lathe to pull the carriage off, and that made sense. If you have a bigger lathe than this, you're probably going to want to use an engine crane and a sling of some kind because the carriage is a little bit heavy. This one's not too bad. Since it's all apart, I cleaned her all up, checked all the clearances, adjusted all the gibs, and then trying to figure out the DRO sensors and everything. Someone had changed the adjusting screw for the compound rest, and they just used some carriage bolts. Not carriage bolts, sorry. Coupling nuts, and that's kind of a neat idea, so I just put fresh ones in that weren't quite so rounded. I don't have a round set of wrenches. Christmas! eBay was the cheapest price I could find a quick change tool post, and this is Boxar. I will likely buy a couple extras. These, not the whole thing, but tool holders. I'm really impressed with the quality. It comes with this big honking plate that you would machine to fit your lathe, but it was just as easy for me to take a piece of 1/2-inch plate and machine it down because it's a smaller lathe than what that tool post could run. An AXA might be a better tool post to use, but by going BXA, it's bigger, in theory a bit more robust, but I already had these cutters, and they would not fix an AXA. This is one of the junk chucks I got, which is dubious. I'm not super good enough to overcome a junk chuck.
So this wouldn't close all the way to 0 with this thing, so I ground the end right off so that I can actually bang it in there, and this thing will go all the way to 0 before it pops it out, which is nice. Not that I need to, but I don't want to lose an inch of drilling depth because I had a bit of a problem here, I guess 3/4 of an inch. Is it going to matter? I don't care, but it fits. Second problem is I lose another 3/4 of an inch when this thing is fully extended. And part of that is the threads in the back of this are a bit screwed. So I don't know if you can see that too well, but like half the threads are gone. So through the wonders of Grizzly Tools, this guy right here is a new set of threads, which I hope will fit this, and I'm already looking forward to being disappointed. I wonder if that has to come off. It must be to get it out. Interesting. Okay. I'm going to go take this to the mill and machine a little bit of it off. Maybe I'll mark it first. That would probably be smart. Measure once, cut twice. All right, to the wonders of symmetry, I've got this thing looking a little bit better. Joy, lucky me. And then we'll see if we can get this in. Probably need a little bit of tapping. So we'll tap at home and hopefully it lines up. Always use a softer mallet than whatever it is you're hitting. Well, that seems easy. Another thing I did is a bunch of these oil fill ports were all kind of knackered. So I bought a bunch of these off of eBay and removed all the buggered ones and replaced them with these. And the hole is a little bit smaller on these, but that's actually good because apparently my little oiling can doesn't fit the bigger holes all that well. Sounds like a naughty thing right there. So I've done all of them except some down here, which I'll show you. So these haven't been replaced yet, and I don't really like how they're working. So here's how I removed them. I just took a screw, put it in the hole. The screw kind of threads its way in, gets kind of tight like a tiger, and then with a pair of vice grips, if I'm lucky, I can pull and it comes out, but usually I just need a screwdriver. Just use a little bit of Archimedes to pull this out, and out comes part of it. Lucky me. Then the delight of trying to get out the rest of it. There's the rest of it, except for the ball and the spring. Inside is just a little ball and a spring. With any luck, that'll come out. There is the ball, and there's the spring. Then the new one, you can just set in place, and I was using a piece of metal, and just smack it with a hammer. And that's one. And the other one. But with these being the right size for my oil can, it forces the oil in where it needs to go. Because you kind of want to pressure the oil in there. So that's looking pretty good. Awesome. These lathes aren't exactly self-oiled. You are the self that needs to oil it.
So the lathe came with a DRO, digital readout, which is always delightful. And they're pretty pricey. This one's has a reputation for being fairly reliable, but also fairly affordable. It's Shooting Star Technologies, I believe. They're from British Columbia, Canada. However, they've since gone under. The fellow who ran the company has passed away, and they're no longer in business. So I was hoping I could make this thing work. One thing I did do is when I finally got a voltage adapter to make this thing work, and it runs on 9 volts AC. Once I got it to run, I had no signal from either of the DROs. The way these were mounted and positioned, the housing just trapped everything, oil, chips, all kinds of junk. So I cleaned it all out, reshaped the trashed metal housings, TIG welded it so no junk should be able to get in. So it's instead of being pressed together and hopefully stamped and spot welded, it's a lot more solid. I cleaned everything out with these brass wheels. I just use a pick, and then on here I just eventually went to the wire wheel and lightly buzzed through the whole thing and cleaned all the garbage out of there. I did not use a pick for 36 inches of not fun. Quick splash of paint, stuck her all together, new grommets. The whole thing was done with telephone cable. I did it in Cat 6 cable because that's what I had. I just didn't use all the wires. Fatter wires might be more rigid. I don't know. It's what I had. It works. Well, it works now. It's not working in the video, but it's going to work in the video. And I've never been through these parts either. I'm figuring this all out as I go. They seem really delicate, but they're also pretty simple. So fixing up the housing, and then I ended up changing the way it was attached to the machine from the way it was when I got it. Just because it didn't really make sense to me. These are all twisted pairs. I'm only using half of the wires. So phone cable would be smaller, certainly smaller in diameter, but possibly more flexible. I don't know. If it breaks, I'm pretty sure I can fix it again. Probably won't break. And originally the wires had little, they're like clips that go on pins on circuit boards. I just soldered them. You're like, oh, the horror. Yeah, the horror indeed. I soldered them, it'll work. Easy enough to unsolder. There's higher quality DROs you can get, but it's more expensive. This is, really the amount of machining I do and the stuff that I make. I don't make rifles. The stuff I machine is usually only a couple inches long. So if it's inaccurate after 2 feet, I don't really care. But there it is. Tidied up, put all together. And we'll put her back on the machine. Seems so delicate, but I'd hate to be tantalized with the potential ownership of a DRO only to find that it didn't work. Then I would feel like I have to get it to work. So it took me a few trials on this to try and figure out how to make this thing attach, and I think this recording is the end result of both the Y, which has already been done, and the X. I did move them around, rotate them, reposition them to better protect the toothed wheel from getting chips on them, and also make it easier for oil to drain out of it if any oil or cutting fluid got inside it. Hopefully protect the sensor inside. And then all of this gets attached. The wires came out of the far right side of the Y sensor, and then whoever used this previously often smacked the carriage into the tail housing or tailstock, or smacked the tailstock into the carriage and just pummeled the wires that went to that sensor. So I moved the sensor's output, the wires, on the Y so that you're not going to smack into it. That might be a problem long term. A little bit tricky putting phone cable connections on Cat 6 when you don't have all of the wires being used, but it worked. So I had to redo all the wiring on the DRO. They all just got buggered from all the years of disastrous abuse. But now I've got X, I got Y. It seems to be working pretty good. I'm pleased with that. So I guess we'll find out how accurate it is, but it does move, it does work. That's awesome. Saved myself some money there. I don't know if you can see this, it's like flash, 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 flash. This is Shooting Star technology. They're a pretty good and reasonably affordable DRO. Came with a lathe, no power supply came with it, and for whatever ingenious reason, Shooting Star, which is a Canadian product, that's awesome, they decided in their infinite wisdom to use 7 volts AC to power it. If you have a job designing electronics, try to make it use 9 or 12 volts DC, because like everybody else has one of those. Took me a while to find a power supply that could give me 7 volts AC, and this is what it gives me. So interesting. Did some further research, because you always do research after you get it together, and apparently
the DRO wants 500 milliamps. And if you can see this, this is rated at 450 milliamps, which is surprisingly just not quite enough. And then since I already bought that one, I found another one on the interwebs that is rated at 1.5 amps, or what is that, 1500 milliamps? And when I plug that guy in, it explodes. Now it works. And I'm ecstatic. This is really cool. So, hooray, the DRO goes, man. And I can just crank this around. And I also highly suspect whoever put the DRO stuff on this lathe originally was drunk, because nothing fit and they bent the heck out of everything. But I've got it arranged in a way that makes sense. I don't know. And yay, the last little bit that we need for this lathe has arrived. I ordered it from a local shop that sells parts and stuff, but they took their sweet time ordering it and never actually ordered it. And after checking in every month for almost 4 months, I ordered from somewhere else. And it's right here. And it weighs as much as I do. And not as cheap as my local place, but I got it, which means it's infinitely better than my local shop. So, gotta learn to not order from those guys. This is from Accurate Tools, something like that, off of Amazon, out of Canada. Yeah, instructions, who's gonna read that? Oh, that's a beaut, a little bit bigger than I'm expecting. That's okay. We got a key, we've got the little locks on the back, foam that I'm likely not going to use. Oh, we're going to lift with the knees. We're going to take off this disastrous chuck, because it's disastrous. Oh my gosh. Whew. I bought the big one, eh? When King sells these, or Grizzly, when they sell these, they give you a 6. And I bought an 8, because go big or go home. I'm not really a good enough machinist to really to overcome the limitations of crappy chuck. So if I'm going to gamble anything, I might as well make it good quality. And these need to be set in here deep enough that this thing locks properly, and I don't really know where that is. There's a line on here. I wonder if that means something. Let's shoot for that line and see what it does. Maybe we'll be close. I really like these kind of chucks. Have them at work. I guess that's the one I use. I guess I'll give this one to the school. Oh, what a thing of beauty. AccuSize Industrial Tools. We did spring for a new chuck for this thing from AccuSize Tools out of Canada. It's made in China, but whatever. We did replace a bunch of stuff using Grizzly parts, and I had to machine some pieces that I couldn't find for the cam lock chuck removing feature. We got the DRO happening. Took me a while to find a 9-volt AC adapter, and thoroughly cleaned and then rewired all of the sensors, and that works. We got the carriage going forward and back for that $1 roll pin. Greased everything up nice and good, lubed it. We got the BXA quick change tool post. A lot of the forums suggested BXA for a 12x36. Probably could have gone smaller. Go big. And we fixed the thread thing in the back of the tailstock, and we fixed or altered my Morse taper adapter for my keyless chuck. So we have full travel on this beast. That's where that went. So, tune in next time when we rebuild some other piece of crap machinery. No idea what it's going to be. But until then, thanks for watching. Take care.